Hi, Gary. Thank you. You could be our meeting greeter. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move to the next agenda item, which is roundtable discussion amongst council members. Council, did you have anything that you'd like to discuss? Any questions you have of staff? Status reports, anything? Dave?
Is the Riverfront Design Committee meeting this month?
They were scheduled to meet last Wednesday. They did not have a quorum. 3 of the 7 members were present, so no meeting occurred.
Will they meet next month, or is it just?
Yeah, they'll meet next month. They meet the 3rd Wednesday? That's correct. Yeah, the 3rd Wednesday of every month is when they meet at 5 o'clock here. Bill Morgan is the council liaison for that program. Matt Adams is the chair, and Steve Tibbetts is the vice chair.
I haven't seen agendas, or I've been looking for agendas and minutes for that meeting.
Okay. Are they not online, is what you're saying?
I didn't see them there.
Okay.
Maybe they're in a different place.
No, they should be where they typically are, and I'll get on top of that right away.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Roger, did you have something?
I've been monitoring the bridge progress. It's down to bare bones currently, which is kind of cool to see and a little unnerving to see the metal underneath and what shape it's in. But it's cool and it looks great. The curbs are in on the far side, it looks like. So they're building a new railing, it looks like, and I'm hoping that they're building it in place and they're going to move it, because it's like halfway, it's like splitting the walkway, so I'm hoping that that's going to be moved at some point.
Yeah, that will be moved.
Good.
There is no plan for a railing to go down the middle of the pedestrian pathway.
Is there plans to build a railing? Because they're spending it looks like they're spending a lot of time and effort on it to just be a safety railing.
So it will be restored back to what it has to be restored, what it was previously. So since they are redoing the iron, the steel and so forth, yeah, that safety railing is pretty significant, but it has to be significant. I mean, they tie off on that and so forth for safety reasons.
So maybe this is, because this is just 2x4s, it looks like, I mean, or, lumber. So maybe it's just a temporary railing, but, okay. Probably good.
Thanks, Roger. Anything from this side of the table for roundtable? Or, yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Do we have any program to get rid of, not rocks, but broken concrete from public?
No. We just finished our spring cleanup that people could have taken stuff over to the DPW for spring cleanup this past week. But there's not like an annual, like our brush program we have at DPW.
Peter, did you have anything this evening?
Nope.
Teresa?
No, thank you.
I didn't have anything either. So if there's nothing else, staff, did you have anything that you'd like to discuss? Roundtable? Okay. We'll go ahead and go to the discussion regarding the Griswold and Regent Theater rental forms. Parker, are you taking that one? Or tag teaming? Okay.
We will tag team. But
Sounds good. So this was brought up in discussions when the council was talking about the park usage forms, and there was reference to the wanting to visit the Griswold and Regent Theater rental policies as well. So we wanted to bring this to your attention during this time. We have linked in this presentation the forms for both facilities. If we need to reference them, they're also included in your packet as well. Just some quick points. In December, just of last year, staff, Ryan and myself, drafted new rental rates for the Griswold Auditorium based on similar facilities in the area. It just started as a conversation between he and I. Ryan meets with people quite regularly who want to rent the Griswold out for different uses. Weddings specifically is what sparked this conversation when, couples are looking for a venue, they're shopping around, the Griswold, in the area, the Griswold, the Silo, the Gathering, which is on the way to Otsego, and Robinson Manor. And in discussions with those couples, it was noted that the Griswold, its rates are far below those other venues, and, for certain reasons. So what we did, Ryan and I took an afternoon and reviewed those venues' policies, reviewed their rates, and drafted what we'll take a look at in just a second. The adjusted rates include weekday and weekend rates, which is not something that the Griswold has had in the past, but those other surrounding venues in the Allegan area and beyond typically have. And then these rates that we're going to review again in the next slide were included in your fiscal year 23 fee schedule. And then touching on the Regent, the rental rate was just increased in 2018 from $50 an hour to $100 an hour. That was specifically in response to the number of rentals that we get, private rentals that happen at the Regent Theater throughout the year, and the remarks being made at how cheap that was, and that we were underselling the Regent at that price from people who were paying that $50 and saying, you could charge a lot more for this, time and time again, finally made me think, okay, maybe we should up this. And so we had that discussion in 2018 with the council then and upped that to $100 an hour. And since then, there's been no feedback regarding that rate being too high. There's been no ask on a free or reduced rate. Even obviously prior to that $100 as well, I'd go so far as to say that I've never had that request or ask in the time that I've managed the theater since 2015. And then the other point that I make here on the slide is just that private rentals cannot interfere with the regular showtime schedule at the Regent. So on the screen is better laid out than what was included in your packet, I hope. That second column rather, lists the current rates for the different rooms, as well as the full building at the Griswold. And then that middle column, that third one in there, is the proposed weekday fee schedule, and then the proposed weekend fee schedule. You can see some fluctuation in price. Sometimes that price goes up, sometimes that price goes down. What we really wanted to do was make this venue, stand up with some of the other area ones, but also recognizing the fact that we have different offerings than something like the Gathering or the Robinson Manor and the Silo for that matter. So you can see those numbers reflected there. Any questions as to how some of those numbers were reached? I can do my best and put myself in the mindset. Run Ryan and I sat down in December, so.
Is there a reason that the banquet room on weekdays when you dropped it $25 rather than just keep it where it was, if that's what people would already expect?
Yeah, so I'll answer that too, and I'll start with the auditorium. You'll see that it went up about $25 for the weekday. With the Regent Theater being the price that it is, that auditorium at $75 an hour we thought was just kind of underselling that space. It's got a really nice sound system. It's got a really nice visual. I mean, we just had a private rental there the other day and screened, I think like a 45-minute film for Positive Options. And it was just a really nice viewing experience, and they're going to continue to rent that out annually. So we wanted to increase the price of that room because it was undervalued. And then the banquet room, we knocked it down 25 because when Ryan and I talked, that space there down below in the basement isn't a higher quality than the auditorium by any means. So we thought that was a little overvalued, so we knocked it down. But then you can see on the weekend, the weekend times are a little bit more of a valuable time period, so. Yep, you bet. And then lastly here, I just want to go over the current free use and fee reduction policies for both buildings. As just outlined in our current rental form for the Griswold provides free use for all Allegan area municipal uses, including the city, the county, and the Allegan District Library. Additionally, all fees are waived for Allegan Public Schools educational use for students. For example, the Allegan High School Pro Youth Team hosted the Allegan County-wide group at the Griswold. This was a handful of years ago, and they used the building for free. They had speakers come in and breakout sessions and utilize that building for the entirety of the day. It was a really cool event, a couple hundred students there. The banquet room is available for free use for all Allegan community events during the hours of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. And outside of those hours, the banquet room is available to Allegan community events at a discounted flat rate of $100 a day. Allegan community event is defined as being an event that's open to the public, that whatever group or entity can charge an admission. But as long as it's a benefit to the Allegan community, it's not a private event, it's something that's open to the public, that falls under that description there. For Allegan groups and organizations that utilize the Griswold Auditorium for a minimum of 80 hours annually, a discounted rate of $25 an hour is offered pending city staff approval. This was more or less catered specifically toward the Allegan community players and the cabaret band show. Both of those are significant users of the building. Both of those prior to current city leadership.
Before I got here.
Before Joel got here.
You don't have to mince words.
Sure. Before Joel got here, there were special arrangements made with those groups where they were getting the building
For free.
for free. And the council at the time, Joel, Tammy, Gorby, who was then overseeing the Griswold, and myself, weren't okay with that, and so we developed this plan that the council approved. So all three of those points are included in the current rental policy for the Griswold. And then included in the Regent Theater policy is the availability for school-sanctioned rentals, which have to be teacher supervised and coordinated with the administration and staff at $3 per student or a $50 flat rate, whichever is greater, and includes one child-sized popcorn and one child-sized pop. This happens frequently throughout the year. We have dozens of school rentals.
Just real quick, this is not just Allegan Public Schools don't we have other school districts?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Many other school districts, Hamilton, Dorr, Wayland, have all utilized it. They brought sports teams.
Not Dorr. I don't think there's a school called Dorr. It's Wayland.
I don't know why I said Dorr.
That's all right.
Hamilton,
There's an
Wayland,
elementary in
yes.
Dorr, so you're close.
It definitely wasn't Dorr though.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this gets utilized often. And then that $50 flat rate is used when they have like I don't know. Yeah, like a small group that are getting like a special recognition for, doing something good. And we only have like 6 kids come in. We want to have something that we can kind of cover some costs. So we just booked one today, actually, for the end of the school year.
So for council, the reason we put this on the study session, and we understand that there's been lots of discussion at this table about park policy reservations, other city facility reservations. I'm of the mindset that the park reservation was taken care of at the last meeting and will be discussed later on during the regular meeting tonight. And just reducing that at such a low entry point that we may not have to talk about removing or, people asking for forgiveness or free use of our facilities. This is how we operate right now. So you've seen the prices on one end, and then you see this, and it just happens that last Thursday, Judy McCall dropped off a petition because they're going to start the art camp back up, which was something I think they did.
Last
17,
17, 18, yeah.
Yeah, when I was first here, that hasn't happened in 19, 20, 21. So it just happens that it coincides together. This was already on our agenda for discussion. So I'm hoping you can spend some time talking about, break it down to the Griswold, what those policies are, and then the Regent Theater, what those policies are. If you want them to change, we can change them. The prices, as Parker mentioned, the rental fees, those are included in the upcoming budget at that level right now. So we don't need to change as much. Go back to the next slide. The only thing that's not in the budget that we are going to have to add is the full building, where it says $100 an hour after 6 hours. You will not see that in your fee schedule. That came up today as we were going through the PowerPoint, and I started doing the math in my head on if someone wants to rent the full building for, the typical way it works, if you have a Saturday wedding, they ask to come in Friday night to set up, and they get to do that for free right now. Then they show up at 8 a.m., and they're there till 12 p.m. And I'm like, well, I don't know, you really can't add those numbers up the way it is right now. So I'm like, it's 1,100 for 6 hours. Every additional hour, whether you come in the night before or after, it's 100 per hour, going on. And we have to account for our time there, the electricity, the use, the, reserving it. They don't pay for Friday night, but they show up Friday night, which means we can't let another entity to use it. That doesn't seem right in my head. So we did add that $100 an hour after 6 hours on the screen, and you'll get an updated fee schedule once we go through the budget, public hearing. But we can go to the next screen. It's these policies I think we need to make sure council is okay with, or, we just, discuss it, see what we come up with. I know, Delora, you put a lot of effort. Peter, you put a lot of effort. Other council members, did their own research and reviewing what Delora kept giving them from different communities. So we want to make sure, we are on a strong footing when we talk about these different things and what you would like, staff to do.
Thanks. Thank you, Joel and Parker, and Ryan back there for your work in this. So I just want to kind of wrap my brain around this for a second. So we would implement these policies, and then as far as the fee reduction, if somebody were to, I know that they're going to be very, very low as far as rental rates, they would still petition council. But staff is thinking we don't need a separate policy as far as fee reductions.
I don't know if staff's in a position to weigh in on that. I think what we're doing is we're sharing with you our current practices in regards to the Griswold and the Regent Theater. And if city council would like a different set of standards for fee reductions, then we can adjust as council directs us. We have not, free use for all Allegan area municipal uses. I guess if they're within 4 nights, if the township wants to use it for free, do we want to allow them to have access to the Griswold for free? That includes townships to me. The county, it's really an unwritten quid pro quo. They have access to the auditorium, and they allow us to have access to their parking lot for the events, which if you remember when Cabaret was happening, that county parking lot becomes the de facto parking lot, for people who attend. I didn't mean quid pro quo as a bad, nefarious, phrase. It was more, we each are giving each other something. The library is just historically has always been that way. And in Allegan Public Schools, it's always been that way as far as we can tell.
Council, did you have any questions, or Peter?
The term Allegan community event seems very vague and hard to enforce. That's the only big thing I have there. I know, and also the rental or the free, I think it was only the county before. I don't think we said other municipalities, so that would be expanding upon that current policy, because that is written in our current rental agreement and policy, I think, is the county and the school and the library.
Yeah, so it's our belief that Allegan area has been on that form before, but we could be wrong. But that's why we wanted to have this discussion, because we really haven't had this discussion here. And I know it's a discussion council's been having or, working your way through. And like I said, really, we do not have a stance or a recommendation on any of these. This is our first,
And And the banquet room, is that only referring to, of course, the basement banquet room?
Yeah, the banquet room, and for the Griswold, the banquet room is the basement room or fellowship hall, recital, I mean, so many terms for it. Yeah, that's a,
Because I know they've had. banquet-
that's old school religious term right there. I apologize. Marilla, the Marilla Room Lounge is the main floor, what I call the main floor. And then the club room is where the Perigo board used to have their board meetings before they built an office on Eastern.
Does the banquet room include use of the kitchen?
Yes,
And the kitchen is certified?
no. If you're asking if the kitchen is certified for someone to cook in and serve food out of, it is not. It's not even certified as a warming kitchen. You have to have a caterer with a caterer's license to bring in their own stuff. So you can't use our ovens that are in there to heat stuff up. When I asked why we have ovens, I was told by staff it was for breaks. I guess that was their way of getting around. There was like a staff break room. Yeah, Teresa, I had the same look on my face like, okay, that's a stretch, so. But it does include use of the kitchen, refrigerators in there, food prep. By prep, I mean storing things. And if you want to assemble, the caterer can do their work in there. Not prepare, but assemble, put things together, rearrange trays before you carry them out. The community events. So that was something we added after I got here, and it was part of the Arts Council. If we have staff here already, and there's an event going down there that's open to the community, as in anybody in the community can attend, we came to the conclusion, a few years ago, why would we charge someone to rent that? And right now, as we've informed you, we do have two other what I would call community recreation events going on in there. There's a group that uses it for pickleball, and there's a group that uses it for cardio drumming. We've been approached by people who've wanted to use it before for Zumba. I almost said jazzercise, but I think Zumba is the correct one.
Roger, I saw you had your microphone on. Did you have something?
Yes, just sort of switching topics a little bit, but I'm thinking, how many would you say, I know you don't probably have an exact number, but how many requests from nonprofits do we get to waive all fees, like to just use the building for free? Is that a
For
regular
the
thing?
Griswold, I would say anywhere between half a dozen to a dozen a year. For the Regent, maybe one inquiry a year, which hasn't ever come to this level here.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, because with the parks too, we get those requests from nonprofits. And as I look at that list, that the banquet room being available for free during the week, and then outside of 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, it's $100 flat fee. What do we think about putting nonprofits in that category just to cover our costs of having somebody have to be there, rather than always saying, okay, we'll just waive all the fees and eat all that cost? I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just trying to figure out, I feel like we need to come up with some policy. So $100 is not a huge amount of money. Most nonprofits can come up with that.
Are you referencing Allegan community events as nonprofits? Because that doesn't say nonprofits.
Right, no, I'm saying, could we put Allegan community events, comma, or slash nonprofits, and lump them into that category so that we have a policy on that, so when we get approached, we can say, this is what our policy is. And it's $100 flat fee for a day, for the day. So recouping some of the cost, but not.
I'm even wondering if we want to change that verbiage from Allegan community events.
To what?
I don't know. I mean, like Peter said, that's a big variety. So
I think you have to.
if we get somebody from Allegan County in Holland that wants to use it is at an Allegan community event. I mean, Parker explained to us what it means, but
Allegan
falls
City
in
events?
that category. I don't know.
You make a good point. The first year we took over Good Times at the Gazebo, we got was it a letter or a voicemail that was not pleased that the city did not do an introductory of here's the band, et cetera. The
That was
pers-
a handwritten letter.
a handwritten letter. The person was from Delora, Michigan. And she said, my community really let me down because you guys didn't do this. And I thought to myself, I never considered Delora, Michigan to be part of the Allegan community. They're in Allegan County, but the city of this area, our community. So I kind of agree. Or if it's someone from, Fenville
I mean, right.
that wants to come here, are they, is that the purpose or not, The one thing I think, Roger, I think I understand where you're going with that, and the not, going back to what Delora and Peter dealing with on nonprofits and their policies. I need to make sure from council that you're okay that we allow the pickleball people to use it for free. That you're okay that we allow cardio drumming still to use it for free. The Red Cross Blood Drive still uses it for free.
Those are mostly 9 to 5. I know the cardio drumming's starts a little later than that, but
So when the pickleball started several years ago, it was mostly lunchtime, Monday through Friday. They've grown. They go in there on Saturday mornings now sometimes. Rick Hoyer is our police chief. We entrusted him a key to the building at the time. He's no longer the police chief. I need counsel to say, yeah, Joel, we agree, keep doing that, or Joel, we need to figure something out. Because there's part of me that feels like I'm a little out on an edge here, that maybe I need to make sure, if council needs to yank us back, I need you to yank us back on that one. Same with the cardio drumming. It was a great thing that happened down there. We've been approached by someone who wanted to do line dancing, and I told that person that was a little too far. It was my wife that wanted to do it. I go, that's a little conflict of interest at the same time, Aaron. Even though Tammy Gorby was all in favor of us doing, line dancing in the basement of the Griswold on Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock. I'm like, yeah, but it can't be, I felt uneasy with it being a personal relationship I have with that person that wanted to run it. So as you talk about community events, I'm hoping we can answer some of the recreation stuff.
Because let's use that for instance, Aaron could open that up to the community and then it'd be a free community event.
Well, they're typically not free. When we go to the one in Coopersville, we have to pay $5 per person.
But you know what
Yeah.
for us to
Yeah.
lend or to rent the
Yeah,
Griswold,
only 9 to 5. So
Right.
that's- If she wants to do it. at
but if
7
it's gonna be after hours,
yeah, if
yeah.
it were that time.
Right.
So there's a lot of little hooks and crannies in this thing, or nooks and crannies that you gotta get into. That's why we wanted to put this on here, to have this whole discussion.
Do we want to be too specific? That's the
Yeah.
other
I
thing,
kind of felt like you left it purposely vague.
and that's,
Well, that also runs into problems with policies if they're so vague that they're not enforceable. Then what's the point of it?
And then we get back to that whole, this is super subjective, like what I think is a community event may not be what someone else feels. I'm gonna suggest that we start, because these are the three, for the Griswold specifically, the 3 points that staff would like some direction on. I'm a little concerned personally with the first one, with the Allegan area municipal uses. So do other council members have any thoughts or concerns about that? I mean, for me, I would say Allegan City, Allegan County, because of the reciprocity that we have with them and the schools
And the library.
and the library. But to open it to Valley Township, Cheshire,
Might also,
Trowbridge, they all have, most of them have their own township halls, yeah. So for me personally, I would want to see that removed, but I don't know how anyone else is feeling about that.
get it written down.
I thought that was part of our regular policy, and I was still fine with that. Was Red Cross just gonna be under probably the free use 9 to 5?
I would think that would be under the next one, yeah.
Okay, just making sure,
Yeah.
because we kind of had that mutual agreement with them when we bought their building kind of thing to say, hey, you come use our Griswold and we'll take on the building.
Mike or Dave, do you have any thoughts about the area municipal uses? Do you want to leave that open-ended or just say the city, the county, the library and schools?
I mean, have we checked with some of these other municipalities to see if there's some sort of cost-sharing agreement we can come to with? I know in the end, there's a discussion about funding for the Griswold, and I don't know, did you guys talk about I missed a couple of the subcommittee meetings. Did you guys talk about like this topic at all in there, or?
Not this specifically.
Okay,
About the rent, but some of these other policies, not as much. We went over what the current rent was and that we did do the county and, we've talked about that, but I know we've been in discussions as council about this for a while, for opening up the parks and other things for our fee schedule, so.
okay. I don't know.
Don't have a strong preference there, Dave?
No.
Okay. How about you, Mike?
No, it just seems like when you're trying to put such a definition in writing, you're going to exclude some and offend some and make others very happy. So it's hard.
It's hard to make everybody happy. But, so I had, I think, 4 council members that said to kind of take out that area municipal section.
Sure.
Is that, am I stating that correctly? I don't want to.
So it would leave
Yeah,
just
I
city,
think-
Just
county, and
the city, the
city.
county, district library, and
Allegan
schools.
Public Schools, or schools, yeah.
Are we going to limit that to Allegan Public, or did we want to leave that open for other school systems?
I would leave it to Allegan Public.
Okay. Okay. So the next bullet point is about the community events. I'll start. Pickleball usually gives us a donation anyway. I don't see why they couldn't pay. If they're outside of that 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, that they do a collection of people that come to play and pay the city for the use. I feel the same way for cardio drumming personally.
Sorry, say that again. You think-
That I would think that they should pay something to use that space outside of that 9 to 5. And it's not hard to pass a donation can around and get $50 from 10 or more people. But that's just my feeling.
So, outside of that, the main thing I usually would have, if we were to open it up to outside 9 to 5, which pickleball is currently, is the scheduling conflict. That's where I said, well, we really need to have a set schedule that if we have this open on a Saturday, if we're saying, yeah, it's okay to come use it and we're not gonna charge you for it, it just can't conflict with current reservations that have already been made, would be my biggest issue.
Do they check before they come in? Pickleball?
Pickleball does not.
So they could go in there and somebody's setting up for a wedding,
Yep.
kind of thing.
And they turn around and they walk out when that happens. Again, when that started, our police chief was, organizing that in. The donation they give us, I believe, is $500 a year. I would want clarification on how much we would charge, because they would not be able to, if they're once a week and they have 5 people for an hour, that's,
Or we limit them to the Monday through Friday, 9 to 5.
yeah. In the summertime, they're gonna be more over
I
at,
was gonna say, it should be noted that for both of these are seasonal.
yeah.
The pickleball group typically plays at the pickleball courts. They utilize the Griswold in the winter months, and then cardio drumming, when they started it, was at Mayhem Park, and then asked for use of the Griswold banquet room for inclement weather, and then into the wintertime.
What time does cardio drumming meet?
They meet, let me tell you, 6 to 7.
And then they move it to Mayhem Park.
Do we move it to 9 to
Once a
7?
week
They haven't been doing it quite
Once a week, or,
Do we change the time?
Yes, once a week. Yeah.
There's no reason not to.
If we did Monday through Friday, 9 to 7, and then anybody that fell outside of that or tried to come on the weekends, they would have to arrange that with staff and pay for it. That would be my thought.
I agree.
Mike, you're nodding your head. Yeah?
None, yeah.
Okay.
I agree there should be some cost.
I don't know, it depends for me, if it's a free and open community event like that, I have less of issue on us because they're taxpayers paying to maintain that building anyways. But I had heard something in the presentation about that they could charge.
So, yeah, when the comment was made about, line dancing for free, the participants usually pay an entry fee to get into it. I mean, it's at the one we go to is the Coopersville Farm Museum. Similar to the Griswold Auditorium where they celebrate arts, the Coopersville Farm Museum celebrates farm implements in Ottawa County. But they got a big open area, and we line dance between tractors. And we pay $5 per person. When you walk in, there's a person collecting your monies, you walk in.
My only concern is that I would prefer if there's a monetary limit per person to say, monetarily no greater than $5 without, city approval, because otherwise, let's say they're a community event, come in and use it and say, hey, it's $20 a person. And it's like, that's not why I was allowing the free usage of it was so that you could collect money other than to cover your costs. I understand like art camp is gonna wanna have some nominal fee, of course, to cover any of the supplies. Line dancing needs a fee, probably to cover the caller's cost and those type of things. But I just don't wanna see somebody try to use it as hey, I'm gonna use this and use it to make profit when that wasn't the idea. If you wanna do that, you can rent it.
So I would offer staff has discussed that. Like if someone came in and said, I would love to have this Monday through Friday, and Mondays is, Zumba, Tuesdays is cardio drumming, and I'm gonna make a job out of this. But I don't know if it's the city's role to create a space for someone to make a job where they could go rent a storefront downtown. However, as we struggle to get recreation going in this town, pickleball is recreation, cardio drumming, recreation, line dancing. If you take it serious, it's line dance. It's recreation. I could see us, creating another line that says, for city-sponsored recreation events, if the entrance fee is less than $5, it's, you get it free of charge if no other events are going on.
Yeah, that's my main concern. It's like, I could see somebody wanting to start a business and they go, well, I can just rent this, but hey, I'm gonna say it's a community event instead of actually, I'm doing this as a business. Cause if you were, that would be probably okay as long as you rent it at the full price and you show us your insurance. And you'd say, well, you are renting it and we can set up a contract that you can use this space for a
And
couple days.
we could probably treat this the way we treat the sports complex, where it's $15 per user, per year. And we could say, if you want to do cardio drumming here, it's $15 per person. For the whole year, not per thing, but you have access, every Tuesday night from April to, August, and you have 10 people, you have to give us $150. And, that's how we do the sports complex, the adult softball league that's starting up there this summer. They've agreed to the same thing, $15 per adult that plays out there. So we might be able to just copy what we do over there, for the users that go in there. And then that gets to your, the pickleball players. Judge Buck gives more than that, but that's the kind of person he is. But, cardio drumming, we could work with them on that. And if there's other people that want to start it, like right now, last week, we got an email from Jared Tugevich. 2-3 years ago, we let her do, was that Zumba? Yeah. So that was the Zumba we allowed on the riverfront. And she's like, I really would like to do this again. What's the process? I'm like, well, first we have to talk about our policy where we say only musical-friendly performances are allowed. But what's wrong with letting someone, reserve it and do a Zumba class out there? Or if someone wants to do yoga out there? I mean, we want more people on our, public spaces doing stuff. And we want to make that entry point lower, than, at a low level so more people can get into it.
the thing I have with if it's per person, like organized sports like baseball, you have a team and you have a team roster. This type of stuff really isn't, and it's
a little harder.
It's a little harder. That's where it's like, do you just say a flat fee for 3 months? Every 3 months, it's this amount, because that would solve pickleball. It wouldn't be like the whole year, you're only wanting 3 or a quarter of the year. It's $25 or $50.
But so right now, with number 2, if they're utilizing that 9 to 5, or if we extend those hours out a little bit, they wouldn't be paying anything.
Yeah. if
It would just be if they wanted to use outside of those hours.
Yeah, that would be fine with that. That would
Okay.
say, hey, if you want to use it outside these hours, it's just kind of like a flat fee per 3 months. And it's,
I know there was some concern about the Allegan community events, feeling that that's very vague. Do we want to tackle that, or just keep it community events and leave that up to staff to determine whether it falls under?
We can say to events made available to the Allegan community. So when we talk about Allegan community events, I want to say we developed this language talking about the art camp.
That's where it started. Yeah, it was exactly that.
So what we're trying to do is, if you're inviting the community in, we want to partner with you. But if what you want to do is have someone who rents up the Marilla Lounge, it's for retirees to talk about life insurance or IRAs or something. This is for your business. This isn't a community event. You're trying to make money on this, so we make them pay for that. This was more, if you're doing something that benefits the community, bringing them in, and you're not making money on it, because it might be a nonprofit. That's where we were going with this.
I think we just
So
need
for events, maybe where the community is invited or something, where the language, maybe something different.
Yeah, but as I'm saying that, we're going to have to figure out how do we define when the community's invited, because if I'm doing an art show and everyone's coming in to buy my art, well, the community's invited, so I should get it for free. I mean, as I'm talking, my brain is thinking at the same time.
I think we would just need to make an actual just definition of that as part of the policy. What is an Allegan community event? It is this. It's open to the public. It's free to attend or with a nominal fee of less than $5 a person. It's family friendly. It's,
And Roger had brought up the nonprofit under this bullet point as well.
Now that we're saying that, you kind of have to be careful, because I could have a church service every Sunday for $100 a week. And it's a community event, because I'm inviting the whole community, nobody's showing up, but they're doing it. So we have to be careful of that, too.
So why don't we have the asset group talk about this policy a little more? Because we're all kind of having good ideas, and then we're all saying, well, wait a second, what if? And there's a small group of council members that meet to talk about the assets, and this can be one of the things. I don't have the statement on the tip of my tongue right now, but they've already agreed what they want the Griswold to be, and this kind of follows a line of just maximizing value of this structure. And so we can talk about how do we want to maximize that value, through increasing access, specifically regarding the banquet room and, those kind of events. I think everyone's in agreement, city, county, and library are the only Allegan area institutions that get it for free. The next thing is, what's a community event? If it's between 9 and 5 on Monday, when we already have staff here, or if it's slightly after hours, so.
Do you guys have to lock up after cardio drumming? Does someone have to come over and lock up, or do they have a key too?
No, they do have a key.
Okay.
And that's part of a problem with me.
I'm like,
That's a serious issue
Right.
that we need to not allow people just
yeah.
have keys to buildings. When that one church rented the Marilla, they always had a key. Like I said, Chief Hoyer has a key, or Rick Hoyer, the ex-chief, has a key. The cardio drumming has a key. Roger had a key that Ryan never got back, so that's okay.
well,
Had.
Oh, had a key. I thought you said I have a key. And I was like, I thought we got that back, but maybe we did it.
he got a copy of the key he gave back to Ryan.
Nobody said I couldn't make it.
Speaking on that subject, would it be more advantageous to have at the Griswold mag locks that have key card access, that then if we have a key card, it has times and dates that are allowed access and not access? That solves a bit of that, and also allows to remove access. Depending on the system, Ubiquity is not that expensive and it has cameras, uses the same non-contact or not that
We
pricey.
put a time lock down on the riverfront because we had an issue with city employees remembering to unlock or lock it at nighttime. And so we just went through a time lock system down there that has worked pretty well.
Yeah.
And so that wasn't that, I mean, it was below my spending threshold, so I know I didn't have to bring it to council to get your approval for that. So, yeah, that's something very much we could look into. We could also do the key card where you can control the whole timing and you're setting up the schedule each day when you know someone's showing up.
So kick this one back to the asset group.
That would be my recommendation.
Okay.
We get the other two that are still left there, just so we can, if it's
would
only
say
the
I'm-
banquet room?
Yeah, I'm cool with the other two personally. Like,
So the bottom one, for the.
The Regent, I think,
Allegan
is
group,
fine, and-
Organizations that utilize it more than 80 hours annually.
And the Regent, yeah. I'm just making sure what we're tackling as a
Yeah.
subgroup that we're
I
just
think
really,
primarily that second bullet point.
okay.
Yeah, Joel? Is that what you're thinking as well?
That's what I was
Primarily?
thinking.
Okay.
That's what I was picking up on.
Okay. Did anyone else from council have opinions so that group can hear before they meet on it? No? Okay. Next up, we have a discussion regarding the ORV ordinance, and we can zip over to the regular meeting packet for that information. Joel?
So very quickly, tonight you'll be having a public hearing and then a second reading of the ORV ordinance. You will see that the ordinance changed from the first reading. We listed the different kinds of ORVs. We defined a UTV, and then based on information I was receiving from council, a UTV, a four-wheeled vehicle, were the vehicles you guys were interested in, and those are four-wheeled vehicles with steering wheels. Also in my report, I mentioned that I reached out to MDOT to begin the discussion of getting the connector routes on what we call the M roads, or the state trunk lines, approved. So the first map you see on the left side of the screen is the roads that ORVs are allowed on. They are highlighted in green. And then the roads that ORVs are not allowed on, that are highlighted in red. I'm gonna grab this for a second. Go for it. So, as you may recall, ORVs are not allowed on state trunk lines. So M222 right here through the middle of the screen, bends here and terminates right there. M40/M89 coming into town, bending here, and they split apart here. M40 goes southerly, M89 goes southeasterly. And then council, from what I heard from the majority of council members, is you were not excited about seeing ORVs on the majority of the downtown streets. However, you're comfortable having ORVs on Second Street, State Street, and then all of Water Street, thinking they could come in from the south or they could come in from the north. That means we'd have had to get connector routes approved from MDOT for this section right here and this section right here. I reached out to MDOT. We had a conversation. They made it very clear to me that their guidelines are not amendable, and that ORV connector route has to have a minimum of an 8-foot wide shoulder. I then asked the representative of MDOT to send me a letter stating that as well, so I don't have to carry that pail of water myself. And so that letter was in your packets. I see Scott Beltman in the audience. I did email him the packet, I believe Saturday. I meant to do it on Thursday, and I forgot about it till Saturday, so I ran into City Hall real quick and emailed it out to him. So the community, what I call the community group, is fully aware of where we are. This map over here is just a zoomed-in area of this. These are the access points that do not meet MDOT's rules. So we thought what you have to do is you have to connect the green to the green. So if you hop over here, you'd have to find a way to connect the green, so they have a continuous route. This is the M222, we call it Grand Street in the city of Allegan, crossing the Kalamazoo River. That does not have an 8-foot shoulder. Down here, where we try to connect the green to the green, M89, also known as Marshall Street in the city of Allegan, that does not have an 8-foot shoulder to qualify for this connector route. When we hop over here, this is Ely Street. Ely Street, as designed right now, comes into here. If you're okay having ORVs on this section, for the time being, they would be able to hop across M89/M40. However, once a roundabout goes in this area, they would no longer be crossing a state trunk line. They would be in the pathway of a state trunk line. So they'd have to enter the trunk line and be part of the traffic. We don't plan on having 8 wide, or the MDOT does not plan on doing an 8-foot shoulder as part of that. The truck apron is on the inside of that roundabout, not on the outside. So we run into an issue. And right now, if you're coming from this area, this doesn't have the 8-foot wide shoulders that people would need to connect. And then we run into the same issue up here. We don't have the 8-foot wide shoulders. People can come down Pine, cross M89, M40 right here, take this around to Hubbard, and they'd be able to, I went the wrong way, and Parker, I screwed it up, because I got trigger happy. I apologize, council. There we go. However, since we don't have, since the majority of council was not excited about doing Hubbard Street as being a thing, this wouldn't work as proposed in the ordinance. And in the future, when this roundabout is installed in 2025, this road would peel over this way, and then you'd have to enter the roundabout, enter the state trunk line. My recommendation, as you saw in the packet, is for you to hold the public hearing since it was scheduled for tonight. That satisfies our ordinance approval process, and then table this for discussion. There still could be validity to approving an ORV ordinance, even if people could not get into downtown. We are home to the annual Allegan County Fair. There may be people from outside the city that want to access the fairgrounds. They would be able to access the fairgrounds. I'm gonna go off map a little bit. If they're coming in off Monroe Road, cross the M89 where
Family Farm and Home?
Family Farm and Home, I was thinking Farm and Fleet, I'm like, that's not it. Family Farm and Home is, and then coming down Delano, and they'd be able to access the fairgrounds that way. If they're city residents, and they have an ORV, and they would like to get out of the city and go enjoy the county roads and the dirt roads that are out there, passing an ORV ordinance would allow someone in this neighborhood to shoot out that way, or someone in this neighborhood to shoot out this way, likewise. So if the goal is getting ORVs downtown, that's an uphill battle. I mean, the bridge alone on 222 would have to be completely reconstructed. Something MDOT was very clear on, they have no plans on doing. Is my presentation clear? Questions? My report that was in the packet, clear questions?
That was pretty clear. Scott, did you have anything that you wanted to add? Come on up.
Well, hello again, everybody. Well, first off, thanks, Joel, for doing that map like that. That makes it easy to see. So the map, as I look at it, you could still access the fairgrounds from Ely Street by going up Grove and then Davis.
Right.
There's a lot of, there's access to everything, the way that, not getting on the trunk lines at all, just crossing them. There is access, I mean, we as ORV people, if we know we can't go down 222 to buzz up to 118th and come around, on the county roads and come around and come in by, family farm there is, not a huge issue. I would encourage you to consider passing it, You know, it's been going on for a couple of years, and to table it, it's just kind of like kicking it down the road. I think there's a lot of opportunity to get access to pretty much everything in the city without getting on the trunk lines. At some point, the bridge that comes from North Street through the Trestle Park, if that would ever be an option to open up to ORV traffic, I mean, that would make it wide open. And I know that the city, some of your golf carts use that bridge already, and that's a little bit one-sided to say it's all right for the city to use it, but not for the residents to use it. I don't know if you let your city residents buzz their golf carts over it currently or not.
We do.
Okay. So I went and looked at it yesterday. The center post could be moved over about that far, and then it would have wide enough for ORVs, but not wide enough for, you know, it would keep vehicles off in it. Otherwise, you're gonna have some kid with a car trying to go across the bridge, and I know nobody wants that. And that's the way they regulate it. They put them posts about 67 inches wide, and that limits what can get on there, but, thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Yep.
Council, did you have any questions for Joel or Scott Beltman?
Me, a couple of things, and the North Street Bridge that he was talking about, is that a pedestrian bridge, or what is that defined as, I guess?
It's the Trestle Bridge that
Yeah,
goes into.
yeah, it's the Trestle Bridge, part of the Trestle Trail, that connects what I'm gonna call, not what I'm gonna call, it connects, Monroe Road in that area, we call that Monroe, up through J.C. Park, across the bridge to North Street. It was installed, there's a plaque down there of all the funders. I believe its intent always was to be a pedestrian kind of feel. The city has used our golf cart on it when we set up the Labor Day walk, where we walk 2 miles over 5 bridges, I think is what we call. So we know it can handle golf carts. When we did the golf cart ordinance, you know, we identified that's how people from the north side would be able to come downtown. You said 67 inches?
I believe so. Don't quote, it might be 68, but
Okay.
it's right there. And it's, the whole idea is to limit it to, like an ORV, it'll get across it, but not a Jeep or any other licensed vehicle.
I mean, I heard rumors when the UAW hall was up there and Rockwell was going full-blown, that people drove their car leaving the UAW hall. Roy Ellis told me that story. I don't know how true it is, but, it was,
Yeah, it's like 8.5 feet wide, I
Yeah.
measure. It's built, I mean, it would hold a train.
it holds locomotives, so,
Yeah.
yeah. When we allowed golf carts, people were like, how's that gonna hold a golf cart? I'm like, well, it was designed to hold big old locomotives, back before aluminum was common in, engines, when they used steel, so.
That answer your question, Mike?
Yep.
Okay. Did anyone else have anything? Dave?
So, just to clarify what's going on here, if we pass the ordinance today, the state level restrictions on trunk line use is what would block those areas in red downtown. So is it, I guess what I'm wondering is, what information are we tabling this for? Like, what are we gonna be waiting for here?
So if you pass it, the ordinance as it was written, has it's in your packet. So the map on the left side of the screen, everything that's red could not have an ORV. So even if we say, and by we, I mean, even if council says, you know what, let's investigate the Trestle Bridge as a potential crossing for ORVs, they still, to help everyone kind of get their bearings a little bit. That's this stretch right here. They would get to the entrance of J.C. Park at Monroe and have nowhere to go. Because we have Chestnut as a street that is prohibiting ORVs at this time. Now, if you want to open up Chestnut and open up Cutler, you could do it if you pass the ordinance as it is. You can amend the ordinance too before you pass it.
So there's language in the ordinance that
Decided
says
to-
Chestnut can't have ORVs?
Correct,
on?
yeah. So if you go to page,
Yeah, we changed the ordinance, Dave, to prohibit
Had been-
the ORVs in downtown, I called it the downtown corridor. Because in talking to
Well, to do it,
different
I
council
guess.
members, they did not want ORVs downtown.
if you go to page 19 of the packet, section 28-182, subsection B, operation of ORVs on the following streets or street segments is prohibited. Cutler from Water Street to North Cedar Street, Trowbridge Street from Water Street to North Cedar Street, Hubbard Street from Water Street to North Cedar Street, Walnut Street from Monroe Street to Hubbard Street, Chestnut Street from Monroe Street to Hubbard Street.
I see
Yeah.
the entry, so I just want to make sure I'm clear. So last meeting, we scheduled the reading of the ordinance, and then we edited it. And now we're coming back and saying, well, maybe we shouldn't, like, are we saying we're gonna re-edit it, or?
We could do that tonight with just making a motion to amend. I personally didn't put in an opinion whether downtown should be or not, because I had brought it up when we discussed this the first time, and everybody
trunk
seemed
lines.
okay, was all throughout the city. Now, we're going and saying like downtown somehow special, and I'm going, why is downtown special? What's so special about downtown that would exclude it if you could figure out how to get into it? You know, that's the big thing, is the only way you're gonna make it ever able to get into it is changing this to two-way.
Well, so the way that it's written, they were going to be able to come like across State and Second and come down and through Water. So they could park in the parking lots that are down there and then walk to downtown. But Scott, you had
I
something?
just wanted to clarify, just to make sure you understand. So the restrictions are just, the state restrictions are just on the trunk lines. All the stuff
Correct.
downtown is your
Now
guys'
been added to
decision.
our ordinance, yeah.
Absolutely, just the
Yep.
trunk lines are the state,
Okay.
the issue. And that's, from the information Joel got, that's non-debatable, I guess.
Right, yeah. I hadn't realized that our ordinance had been edited or amended from the last reading, or the last meeting. So, I don't know. So the staff's recommendation is that we table it because we think this amendment that was made but since the last meeting might need to be amended again, or?
So staff's recommendation is that you table it, and keep in mind, we meet every 2 weeks. So yeah, it's kicking the can down the road, but we're not kicking it, we don't meet like the townships where they meet once a month. So we can really discuss in earnest that trestle bridge idea, which would require some improvements by, DPW to relocate the post, because that post is right in the middle right now. Wide enough for a golf cart to get around, but not wide enough for,
Correct.
yeah,
But the relocation of that would be like,
correct.
10 minutes.
Yeah, it'll be a simple relocation. Make sure the whole of council, by whole, I mean, the majority to vote, is comfortable with the prohibitions downtown. Discuss, maybe we allow them on Trowbridge, and we look at making Trowbridge two-way again. Or we look at making Trowbridge one-way in, which would allow people to come in this way along, I'm talking about if we were outside the city, come in along this way, hop across, or down to Pine, hop across, and then shoot in this way.
I don't like that one, because we're already Second Street's one way in. I don't think everything coming in is necessarily the greatest, and we don't have a roundabout yet to have an outlet. Because you'll have a ton of cars going down your road, Joel, which
We are, yeah.
you already do, but
Which
you'll
is
like it even
fine,
more.
I mean, yeah.
I'm fine with passing it even as is if we just have it, but I really wasn't, I don't think downtown's anything special, so I don't see why it's special exclusionary zone for downtown when we had discussed previously making exclusionary routes or just routes, and we said, no, we weren't gonna do routes.
I agree with that.
But if we want to table it so that we can have time for staff to evaluate use of the trestle or any other means to get into downtown, because otherwise it's pretty much downtown will be limited off come 2025 with the circles put there. There'll just be no way to really get down there without crossing a trunk line, so.
And for me personally, I'm fine voting on it tonight the way that it's written, with the understanding that there are some access points to get to near downtown. I mean, you could pop across perhaps at the, the trestle bridge or across Pine, because that's how we get down with our golf cart. And then understanding that whether or not those trunk lines open, there's still that access, but not to downtown. Because frankly, I've heard from multiple council members that they did not want the downtown open. And that's a concern as well with the new streetscape that's coming in and all the construction that we're going to be having. And so that's where I'm sitting at, is I would be happy to pass as it is tonight, but.
I can get an ORV and tool it around on Water Street to Second Street and back and forth, I guess. And if we take it as written here, because that segment's included, and I would just remove all of section B personally, of that 28-182 section B. Really wasn't in our first reading. That's not even, our first reading had it established kind of as this, and then now we're going to second reading, and we haven't had a real motion of council and a real vote to change this part of the ordinance. I really don't like it that way. I'd rather, hey, if we want to table it and just say it's going to appear on our next council session, that's fine with me too, but either vote on it or table it without the downtown being excluded. Personally, it's.
Roger, did you want to say anything?
I actually like the section B. That was my big sticking point and my compromise to say if we could kind of keep the downtown more secluded. Although I was willing to say if we wanted to open up that section from crossing from J.C. Park on Chestnut and Water Street to allow access into the Cutler Street parking lot, and the county lot that's there, so that ORVs could come park there and then make it into the downtown. That would be, I would be open to that. Yeah, and that Water Street, just kind of make that little box around Village Express and in that area. I would be okay with that if we could make that. I would be okay with that amendment to allow the ORVs in.
Where is that, Roger? I'm sorry.
So, so just,
Yeah, thanks, Parker.
so Chestnut, which is right across from J.C. Park,
Okay.
so they could come through the trestle bridge if we open that up.
And then open
make
this
it
as
into, Chestnut, then they could make it in, and then that little section of Cutler, they could get into the Cutler Street parking lot across the street here.
Well, I think when it was brought up before about having routes, we said that wasn't very fair to certain residents because they wouldn't have access to those routes. It wouldn't be very fair or equitable because all of a sudden we're just excluding certain roads. And so if that person wanted to ride in or owned a property, because currently we'd be excluding, of course, people that do have houses downtown, and that downtown core there are excluded.
But, not every citizen has the same access to the same rights. I mean, if you look at, the block I live on, it's one way going out of town. If my wife and I ever said, hey, let's get a golf cart, even the golf cart ordinance, we could never use it. Because when we come to the traffic light, it's one way this way, so we can't drive against traffic. And once you get here, we are surrounded by state trunk, all three options are state trunk lines.
We could exclude just that section of the road that goes from there to there because it's one way.
Yeah, but all these people would be excluded from
Yeah,
it,
they're already excluded
Yeah.
just by the state route issue.
just by the state routes, regardless of what the city
But
says.
other part isn't the first part of that road. is not.
Correct, yeah,
They can just take a golf cart, turn down the other roads and still get downtown.
yeah.
I just don't like carving off things, it just doesn't seem like there's a lot of logic in this, other than somebody doesn't want an ORV downtown. And I'm sure the people outside of downtown also don't want an ORV on their road. My wife personally just told me she doesn't want them. I'm for, hey, I'm more like, let it be, I don't care. But why are we excluding one and not the other? It's,
Well, I mean, if we want to make it equitable, then we say, then they can't, none of them, you can't come in to the city from any side, because the north side can't get into town. Really, I guess maybe across Pine they could, or if they come through Pine. But I mean, if we want to make it equitable, we just say, then nobody can come downtown.
To allow access on J.C. Park Drive, does that require, I mean, is that a sidewalk or a road or?
That 10-foot path?
Yeah, it's labeled J.C. Park Drive there, right?
Yeah, so right next to it. So there's the driveway that goes back to the parking, okay?
Okay.
And you can't pick it up really on this imagery, but, 10 feet off this driveway is an 8-foot wide path or a 10-foot wide asphalt path.
So would we then need to add to the ordinance a specific, like, ORVs can be on Trestle Trail or?
No, and the reason why I'm saying no very quickly is the ORV ordinance is to allow ORVs on city-owned streets. Since we don't consider that a city-owned street, then there's no,
Are you saying there's no restriction right now?
there's no restriction right now unless we have park rules that restrict it. And I don't know of any park rules that restrict it.
So all we would need to do then is move that barrier.
The physical
and then people
impediment.
can-
I would encourage council to consider adopting some resolution or something that says ORVs can be on this path from here to here, and, this is the speed limit. We didn't do that with golf carts, but we were more, golf carts was our toe in the water.
So by
Joel, would-
changing this, does that kick it back to a first reading?
No,
Why is that?
because in the city of Allegan, we have 2 readings for an ordinance, and we are not making substantial changes to the ordinance. We're not expanding it, we're constricting it.
Teresa, you had something?
we have to change the end of that pathway though, because when you come to the end, there's benches and a little island thing, or you can cut through the grass into the police department.
Yeah, what Teresa's referencing right there, where the driveway, the J.C. Park Drive meets that trail, there's a monument, like a brick monument, and a pair of benches and a trash can set up there. And I don't know how wide that pathway is.
The golf cart will fit through there, but it's very, I
Yeah,
even feel funny driving through there because it's such a pretty little setting area. And the only other way is to go through the grass onto the police,
yeah,
into the
that
police
8 to 10 foot path, however wide it is, splits in 2. So we're looking at an overview,
Yeah.
overhead view right now.
So we may have to put like a little asphalt path into like the police department or around the outside or something there.
Yeah,
There is that, it's kind of a weak little crossing, but there, once you get across Trestle Bridge, you can cut over into the parking lot in J.C. Park and so making that a little.
Is there
I know that
stairs
that's
there?
Big enough.
yeah, there's stairs going there.
Oh, I've ridden my bike across that.
There is, yeah.
So we got the bike. Oh, yeah, it goes up the hill. Okay, yeah, there's 2.
Yeah.
Dave, you're right.
Would that be
There
wide
is a
enough,
bike,
though?
there's a flat way and there's a stairway.
It was big enough for me with like a carrier on the back on a bike, which is
Okay.
smaller, but I don't know.
Never come through there. so-
How strong is that wood bridge?
That one right there, that's what I'm saying, it's like not,
Just don't
I
know.
mean, yeah, I haven't fallen through it yet, but,
That's good, right?
right, yeah.
Anyway, that would just be another thing to look at to make sure if we decide
Yeah.
to do that, that ORVs can get through.
So I would say, again, the reason why staff was recommending tabling is just because there's a lot of questions I think that still need to be answered. However, if you're comfortable, as I started with my presentation, you can go ahead and approve it as is. And the majority of the city is accessible and people in the city can leave, the majority. We'll have to figure out the downtown portion. And then the other thing is the trestle crossing, if that's something council would like to see. I'd recommend that we pay the $1,000 and create a new path between the police department and instead of going down that area over that wooden bridge that I'm seeing on the screen right now.
I mean, is there something wrong with passing a more restrictive version now, and then if we've got ideas for how to increase accessibility, we can amend it later, or?
So are we?
Like I said, I'm comfortable passing it now, the way that it is. If the majority of council wants B out, I'm comfortable with that personally. So we were trying, as a group, I'll just say we'd had some conversations that were happening, and I heard from multiple people that they were not happy with having the downtown open. So brought that to Joel, as well as 3- and 4-wheelers. So if you look at the revised ordinance, we're just UTVs, I believe it is, which is, like Joel said, 4 wheels with a steering wheel, excuse me.
One minor thing on the UTV, the definition says propelled by an internal combustion engine. Is there value in, I mean, that excludes an electric engine.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So Peter, that gets to your hovercrafts and all of that.
Yeah, that's why I was just making sure hovercrafts are
Yes,
excluded.
so
and-
that would
and
be
four-wheelers, because
Yep.
I know Jay wasn't
Right,
really up on
exactly.
wanting four-wheelers.
Non-registered aircraft.
So, yeah, the aquatic vehicle, like a duck type vehicle thing. So by doing that with that definition, that takes out those other vehicles.
I think you bring up a good point with the because there's electric golf carts.
Sure, someday there'll be lots of things, yeah. But I mean, if it's not a like critical distinction, then
That's probably just the state definition, honestly, Dave. That's where most of these definitions came from was. Can you speak to that, Joel?
I
Don't know.
cannot,
Okay.
no. Very good point, though, because I'm sure there are electric, these kind of vehicles. I'd be shocked if there isn't.
I know a friend of mine just bought a golf cart that's electric, so.
Yeah, so UTV, by our definition there, says that it has to be four-wheel drive as well, which would mean it would have to have 4x4. So you couldn't have just rear-wheel drive or front-wheel drive UTV.
Oh, I can look into that definition.
Yeah, because I'm just reading
Another
it.
reason why it would be good to table this.
Yeah, I'm fine with, like I said, tabling it.
Okay, was there anything else regarding this discussion, council? No? Scott, did you have anything else you wanted to
No,
add? to
I
the-
just.
Okay,
thank
and we
you.
will have the public hearing at the next meeting, so. Okay, so next up, we have a discussion regarding the March revenue and expenditure report.
Typical report that we put in your packets. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me or Tracy. But this is something we've been doing for a while now, just keeping council informed on our year-to-date expenditures.
Council, did you have any questions about the expenditure report? No? Okay. Next, we have a review of our council agenda. Did anyone see any additions, corrections, any amendments, staff that need to be made?
On the ORV thing last time, I was a yes. I believe Bill Morgan was a no.
You're right.
Thank you. When you adopt the minutes just say adopted, go with correction.
Okay, there was just a time correction too that I had found, but, oh, did you find that too, Michaela? Oh, okay, you were nodding. Okay, so when we get to the minutes, we'll just make that amendment. Okay, so it is 6:49. I'm going to adjourn the study session, and we will reconvene at 7 o'clock for the regular meeting. actually 7:01, so I'm going to call our regular city council meeting to order. If everyone can come in and find a seat. While everyone's getting seated, Michaela, could you do a roll call, please?
Sure. Councilmember Zeter,
Here.
Councilmember Hands,
Present.
Councilmember Byrd,
Here.
Councilmember Riding,
Here.
Councilmember Morgan, Mayor Pro Tem Galloway,
Here.
Mayor Andrus.
Here.
Quorum.
Thank you. Could I get a motion, please, to excuse Councilmember Morgan?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance, which is agenda item number 3. If everyone could please rise and join me. Thank you. Next, under agenda item number 4, we have an approval of the agenda. Under 4A, approval of the regular council meeting agenda for April 25th, 2022. Council, we discussed this at study session. There were no additions, corrections, or amendments to the agenda. Could I get a motion to approve?
So move.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. If there's no discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have agenda item 5, which is an approval of our minutes. Under 5A, we have an approval of the study session minutes from April 11th, 2022. If there were no additions or corrections, could I please get a motion to approve?
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Under 5B, we have an approval of the regular meeting minutes from April 11th, 2022. There was a slight correction, I believe, Michaela? So could I get a motion, please, to approve the amended minutes?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. And under 5C, an approval of the budget meeting minutes from April 13th council meeting. I just saw that the meeting was called to order per the minutes at 6 o'clock. It was actually 5:30. So if you could make that change, please. I will move to approve the corrected minutes. Could I get a support?
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no.
I will abstain. I wasn't there.
Thank you, Mike. Motion carries. Next, we have agenda item number 6, which is special presentations and recognitions by the mayor or council. Under 6A, we have a Drinking Water Week proclamation that I will be making. But first, I'd like to invite Doug and Zach up.
Thank you. On April 6th, Zach and I attended the Regional American Water Works Association meeting in Kalamazoo, and all communities in the area are invited to bring samples of their drinking water for a taste test. And I would like to announce that Allegan won the Region 5 Taste Test Award. Trophy right here. They're working on a nameplate on it. But thought that was, very good that we won it. Would like to congratulate Zach as manager of the water plant. It's been many years since we've won the award, so it's good that it's, been awarded to Allegan. And just an indication and representation of the quality of water that Allegan puts out.
Very nice.
That is wonderful. Congratulations. Round of applause, everybody, for our awesome water. Okay, is there anything else that you gentlemen would like to say?
That was it.
Okay. So I will go ahead and read the proclamation. This is for Drinking Water Week, which is May 1st through the 7th of 2022. So whereas water is our most valuable natural resource, and whereas drinking water serves a vital role in daily life, serving an essential purpose to health, hydration, and hygiene needs for the quality of life our citizens enjoy, and whereas tap water delivers public health protection, fire protection, support for our economy, and the quality of life we enjoy, And whereas the hard work performed by the entire water sector, designing capital projects, operators ensuring the safety and quality of drinking water, or a member of a pipe crew maintaining the infrastructure communities rely on to transport high-quality drinking water from its source to its consumers as taps. And whereas the coronavirus pandemic has shown a light on the importance of drinking water for health, hydration, and hygiene needs. And whereas we are all stewards of the water infrastructure upon which current and future generations depend. And whereas the citizens of our city are called upon to help protect our source waters from pollution, practice water conservation, and get involved in their water by familiarizing themselves with it. Now, therefore, be it resolved that by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of our city, I do hereby proclaim May 1st through the 7th, 2022 as Drinking Water Week. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would just like to note that, if should any council members like to tour the water plant, during the week or any other time, please give Zach a call. Mayor will be touring next week on the 5th. Zach's there 7 to 3 most days. So, just contact him and he'd gladly give you a tour. And yes, Zach, I'm speaking for you. But, any of the council members, general public too, if there's any questions, if they'd ever like to see the water plant, please just, give Zach a call and, he's very good at the water plant, loves the water plant, knows it, very well, so.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for all the hard work.
You're welcome,
Greatly
thank you.
appreciate it. Yep. Next, we have agenda item number 8, which is public hearings and adoption of ordinance. Under 8A.1, we have a second reading, a public hearing, and adoption of ordinance 502 regarding off-road vehicles. Staff?
Sure. So at your previous meeting, you had a first reading and you scheduled a public hearing for this evening on ordinance 502. Over the past, I'd probably say 6 months, the city's been made aware of a community initiative to get off-road vehicles on city streets and county streets throughout Allegan County. They approached us more recently as it appeared that the townships around the city of Allegan were approving the use of ORVs on city streets. At your last meeting, you had that first reading. Since that last meeting, there are several council members who were not as excited to allow ORVs on downtown streets. So what staff did is we took the initiative to create 2 maps that you see on the screens and or the screens behind you. The first map, which is on the left side, shows all of the city streets that would have an ORV on the streets. Those are highlighted in green. The streets highlighted in red show which streets do not allow ORVs on them, either due to state law because it is a state trunk line or otherwise known as an M road, or the ones in downtown. I'm gonna grab the mouse and see if I can't help get people's bearings here. So this area right here is the core of our downtown. When we talked to council members between the last meeting and this meeting, they were comfortable allowing ORVs on Second Street, State Street, and Water Street, what I'd call the edges of the downtown. I then reached out to the state because Scott Beltman, who is what I'm gonna call the leader of that community group, informed me that we have to have MDOT's approval for connector routes. So I reached out to MDOT to, start that process for getting approval for connector routes along the M roads. Because the goal is to connect the green street with the green street, the green street with the green street. That way an ORV can make its way into the downtown. And talking with MDOT, it became very clear that their state rules require a minimum of an 8-foot shoulder along the M roads for an ORV to be on it. So every area that you see highlighted in blue where we were hoping to get a connector route is not possible because we don't have that 8-foot shoulder. Also, in between the last meeting and this meeting, there was some discussion amongst council members that they weren't all excited about allowing all types of ORVs downtown or in the city. There was some chuckling about, should we have hovercrafts going down, our city streets, et cetera. Our city attorney defined, which ORVs could be downtown, including, what we found out to be a UTV. The definition we have for the UTV, I would believe, came from existing definitions or commonly accepted definitions. Those were four-wheeled vehicles with steering wheels. Think of these as like the side-by-sides. Our police chief is not excited at all about allowing quads, three-wheelers, those type of vehicles on our city streets. So the ordinance we presented, focused really just on the UTVs or the side-by-sides. Based on the conversation, discussion that council had during the study session and staff's recommendation, due to the uncertainties on how we are going to get ORVs into the downtown, staff's recommending that we table this to your next meeting to allow some discussion on if you want to figure out another way to get ORVs into the downtown. That would include identifying the trestle trail, which is in J.C. Park over the trestle bridge, making some very minor modifications to some physical impediments on that bridge. Right now, there are two, what I'm gonna call bollards that are in the middle of the bridge that would stop a car from going through there. Golf carts are able to get around it. But, an ORV or a UTV side-by-side would not be able to get around it. We'd have to, address that. We'd have to address the connection at the southern part of that trail at the entrance to J.C. Park. We're gonna have to massage that. And then the map and the ordinance language that was in your packet would have to address opening this segment of Chestnut between Monroe and Cutler open, and then this section of Cutler between Chestnut and Water open. So there's still some unknowns that, I'm still comfortable as a staff person recommending that you table it. You hold the public hearing as scheduled, close the public hearing, at that point, and then, give staff the direction on where you want us to go. Your other option is you approve the ordinance as it is, which means people from outside the city can access most parts of the city of Allegan. A discussion that we talked about during the study session was people coming in Monroe Road, and I mean out by Lake Allegan, where family farm and home is. I don't know if I even got that story correct that time either. All right, it is family farm and home, thank you. Cutting across onto Delano, coming down Delano, and then, when the Allegan County Fair is in town, there might be a lot of people that want to come in that way. That could serve a benefit. One thing we didn't touch on, that Parker and I mentioned, is, coming in on, 100, so we call it Hooker Road. I'm not sure what the
114.
114th, thank you. Coming in 114th to the sports complex. If you live out in the township, you got, a kid playing soccer or a kid playing baseball, you might want to bring your, ORV into town that way. So that's something to consider. However, staff, if you want to go that route, that's a route you can go as well. But I think eventually you'd have to deal with the downtown. I'm not a big fan personally, if you have issues with an ordinance, passing an ordinance and saying we'll come back to fix those issues. I think it's more wise to say, let's table this and fix those issues right now, and then be comfortable in what you're passing is what you'd like to see pass. Any questions for staff?
Go ahead, Peter.
I have one. In reviewing the memorandum from MDOT and talking of the trestle, at the end of second paragraph, it says, in addition, state law prohibits ORV use on sidewalk or other non-motorized facilities. I'd probably want to know what that state law is before recommending at all using the trestle, because it's saying sidewalks and non-motorized facilities.
So that is something, that might be another reason to table this. In my experience, when the state references a non-motorized facility, this is typically a facility that was built or paid for with MDOT funds, not a local path that the city might have made. but that is something we can dive into and make sure that that trestle trail wasn't constructed with, any kind of state funds when it was built, and make sure that we're okay with that being incorporated into our ORV trails in the city of Allegan.
If that trestle trail is open for ORV use, does that mean like the sports complex trail would be open for ORV use, or?
That also is a very good, yeah, I hate when, I don't like to say that's a good question, because it's usually a filler for, I don't know. And that is another thing that we probably should make note of and investigate. I don't envision, the community group that's been coming to meet with council and been part of this, it is not their, from what I can tell, their intention to go four-wheeling around sports complex on that asphalt path.
Right.
I don't see that at all, but we're gonna wanna clear that stuff up. So yeah, the answer is, I don't know. We have to figure that one out, though.
Council, did you have any further questions for staff?
Just the one on the four-wheel drive requirement of an ORV and internal combustion.
So, yeah, during the study session, that came up that our definition might be antiquated, and I made a note of that already to talk to our city attorney and make sure we can't clear that up more. And I guess a conversation for, the council of the whole, if you decide to table this. So we wrote the UTV ordinance in accordance to where our, chief of police wanted it to be. No three-wheelers, no quads. He was just for side-by-sides. I know there are people in the community group that think quads are okay. They liken them akin to a motorcycle, except motorcycles are licensed, but the safety of them are, you're riding on top of the engine, more or less.
The UTV definition, that's an addition since the last meeting?
I believe so. I think it was the city attorney's attempt to satisfy the police chief's, concerns and some council members' concerns that made its way to our desk.
And the hoverboard or the hovercrafts, and that gets rid of all of those extraneous vehicles that are considered ATVs.
It does strike me as considerably more restrictive, given where we were at the last meeting.
I think it was also tanked vehicles. That's why it says wheels and not tracks. Because the original allowed for tanked vehicles or tracked vehicles, which as long as they're rubberized is not a major issue, but if they're not, that becomes an issue.
So are there any further questions before I open the public hearing? Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead and open the public hearing at 7:18 PM. So I'm going to invite the public to come up and make public comment. Michaela, do we have that sign-up sheet up there?
I did not make it for this meeting.
Okay, not a
but
problem.
We'll start that at the next one.
Okay, so I will invite you up if you could just state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes to make comment. So Scott, come on up.
Good evening again, everyone. Scott Beltman here. So just a couple topics to touch on. First, the way the ordinance is written there with the downtown all closed off, I know a lot of us would be opposed to that, and the whole benefit is being able to, at least to get to the city parking lots. And the way that map looks, it's really restrictive. I ain't saying we need every street, but give us a little bit more access than that. The other thing would be, please consider not excluding four-wheelers. I know a lot of the group here have four-whelers, not all, but some. And it's gonna really limit the amount of people coming into town. Three-wheelers, no problem. Hovercrafts, obviously no problem. From last week's or 2 weeks ago's meeting, four-legged mules, no problem. And then the other point would be on the bridge, if that Park Bridge is opened up, or the Trestle Bridge, I would recommend put like a 5-mile-an-hour speed limit on it. 5 or 10, make it really, really slow, so they're just creeping across there. We don't want to get a bad name, and coming across that bridge if there's somebody there fishing or something like that. I mean, it ought to be just fast enough to maintain forward motion. And that keeps it safe for everybody, and we still have access to downtown. So, the other thing would be back to, Mike's question about the vehicles on state sidewalks or state property. I mean, there's already golf carts on that bridge, so I don't think that's an issue. It shouldn't be. And I can just say, I don't think everybody's here gonna come up, but I think, at least with the exception of 2 city employees, I know that whole section is in favor of an ordinance and moving forward with it, so. I don't know about this side, but anyway, okay. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this topic? If so, I'll invite you up, state your name. Come on up. I don't want to, but nobody else is. If you could just state your name and your address, and again, you've got 3 minutes to make comment.
Deb Lamer, 2255 100 in 4th Avenue, New Zealand, building in Allegan currently. We have quads. They're utility vehicles. They're big quads. They can go through the street like side-by-sides. We can only go the speed limit, the same as everybody else. You don't pop wheelies, you don't fly around. We would get tickets the same as everybody else. We just want to get gas, get something to eat. We do that in Hamilton, at Hilliard's. I just heard that. What's the place with the chicken? What just opened? Well, Hilliard's, yeah, Hilliard's. We'll go to Russo's. Sonny's Restaurant in Burnups. They even opened part of A37. We can get there, but we can't come here and spend any money. And we thought you might like that. So maybe, like he said, if we could get to the outskirts even, where we could go to Village or the gas station there, or park down here and walk in at Minnie's or something. Maybe the gas station by the grocery store, I don't know if you may cross there, but we would like some access also to do that. And we will spend money here, just like we do up north with snowmobiles and quads. So that's pretty much it. And also, if you're gonna table it, could you have someone write like why you don't want them to come in detail so we know what we're fighting against? You know exactly. And then we'll try to come up with more reasons why it would be good. That's all I got.
Thanks, Deb.
Thanks.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Again, name, address, and 3 minutes.
Yeah, my name's Dan Kaywood, 4152 24th Street, Door area, Salem Township. Just the map is what I'm concerned about. The downtown area is kind of what you're wanting to get to. A lot of times when you come in, the gas stations and stuff are nice, but the restaurants are down here. And that's kind of a little bit restrictive, in my opinion. I guess I don't fully understand what the purpose of that is, why you're cutting that whole downtown area off. Is there a reason for it, or?
We don't typically engage, so we can try to answer that question as we discuss a little bit later on.
Okay, all right, that's just all my concerns was the downtown area, is cutting off the businesses that are down here. Because I know I'm probably not gonna come park outside and walk downtown to get something to eat and stuff like that. We'll go to Door, Fanville, something like that, is my opinion, so thank you.
Thank you.
Charles Tripp for 19 Hastings Street. I'm not against ORVs coming to town, but I am against changing the trestle bridge into a road for these vehicles. If you live on that side of town, you'll see families fishing off that bridge. The disc golf course that's in J.C. Park, 3 of the hoops will run along that trail till you get to the bridge. And I'm just afraid that if you change that into a ORV road, you're gonna destroy the quality of life for the people that are living in that area. Like I said, I'm not against the ORVs coming to town, but I am against changing that bridge into a road. And I also believe that that was state-funded. Thanks.
Thanks, Charles.
My name is Josh Driscoll, 3081 53rd Street, Hamilton. Couple things, I do have a concern with the map, as it's laid out here. I guess I'm not super familiar with it, but, per some conversations, I think the main thing would be, just getting us access to parking lots. You know, I'm looking for a compromise here. I guess the other thing would be, I did a little bit of investigation on, the state trunk line stuff. Based on the documentation I was able to find, MDOT hasn't done a good job of getting that information out there. A lot of their website is not accessible for some reason, but I don't think the 8-foot requirement is actually state law. It is current MDOT policy. So that was the best information I could come up with. I don't know if they have leeway in that policy or if they're just gonna stick to it. But it seems to me there's some flexibility there. There is a good deal of information on that process in Public Act 240 of 2008. That's what actually outlines the requirements for allowing that. And I guess the other thing I would advise is maybe just put some thought into this. There was a road that was going to turn into a roundabout. I think you discussed it briefly at the last meeting. If that turns into a state road, or if that intersection changes to a way where ORVs couldn't use it, we can at least use it for the next year, and then the ordinance would just be superseded by the intersection changing, right? So there wouldn't be ordinance changes needed. We'd have a year to figure out other routes into the downtown. Yeah, I guess the last thing I'll leave you with is I would be against mixing pedestrian and ORV traffic, except in the event that that's the only way we can accomplish this. I think we need to explore all other avenues, but if that's the way we need to do it, I think it will be ultimately beneficial to accomplish, you know, what everybody's looking to do here. So that's my comments.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come up and make public comment? Okay. Seeing no further public comment, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:28. Okay, council, so we've heard public comment. We've had a couple discussions about this. Next, we need a motion. And as Joel mentioned, and I will reiterate, we can go a couple routes with this. You can make a motion to table the vote. You could make a motion to adopt the ordinance as written. If there were any amendments that you wanted to make to the ordinance from something that you heard tonight from the audience, you could make the amendment and then approve. So we've got a couple options.
I would like to make a motion to table it.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Council, this is our time to discuss the tabling of the ordinance. Is there any discussion amongst council members?
I think we just have too many questions yet, like the pedestrians and the trestle bridge. Didn't even think about the people in that pathway, even though I do believe the ORVs would be considerate. It's just something we need to think about. Out at the sports complex with the question that came up, I'm not in favor of keeping them out of the downtown streets, so we just have a lot of questions yet that are unanswered.
Did anyone want to add anything to what the Mayor Pro Tem has said?
I would just, I think tabling it for a short time is the right call, just because I think we can make some adjustments to this to make a compromise, to make these good folks happy and keep those of us on council that have other concerns happy as well. And I think from the other city residents that I've talked to, I think it's a good compromise to be able to open up maybe Chestnut and Cutler in those small sections to allow access to more parking lots and gas stations and things. But yeah, so I just think we need some time to process together.
Thank you, Roger and Teresa. Peter?
Yeah, we have to really answer the question on the trestle, because otherwise the downtown's a moot point, because there's no routes into downtown, except for a little bit while Ely's still connecting to Hubbard. Once that goes away, unless if we change Trowbridge to two-way, there's really not a way to get in here. But I do want to know, do we want to set any time on when we want to put this on what agenda, the 9th or the 23rd? Or would we recommend tabling it till?
So it's been my past practice when a tabling motion is made, unless a date specific has been mentioned, it goes to the next agenda. That's how we've done it, where
I'm
my
just
previous
making sure
list.
where we're going to put it on what agenda. So is this going to be on, then we'll just say the 9th, unless if we want to make a new motion to adjust that to the 23rd. What's staff's ability to kind of answer these questions in the next 2 weeks?
That's easily done.
Okay.
Yeah, these aren't too crazy questions.
So we did have a request from somebody in the audience to outline exactly what it was that we were trying to answer. So it sounds like some of the access points, I don't know, for those that aren't familiar, there were 2 access points, 2 different parking garage or parking areas. You could come in across the bridge, which unfortunately is closed right now, and you could come up Water Street to get to those areas, and there are several parking lots accessible right from there. At this point, with that state trunk line closed, neither one of those routes in would get you down here anywhere near a parking lot. You'd have to park at J.C. Park most likely and walk over, or at Village Market. So we have the access points. I know when I spoke with Mr. Beltman, we talked about signage, how important, if there are areas in the downtown that are closed, that we need to make sure we have signage so that they are not inadvertently going in the wrong direction or on the wrong roads. And then we need to talk about the four-wheel issue that has come up. And if that's something that council, I'd like to discuss that openly here to see if council wants to allow four-wheelers in, or if we're going to keep it to 3 and 4-wheelers not allowed, as well as the hovercrafts and all those other things, but just the UTVs, which are basically the side-by-sides, to give staff direction on what to do with the ordinance in that respect.
I'm certainly concerned the UTV definition is just too restrictive. I don't know what a better definition would be. I'd be open to, if there are other communities that have placed like safety requirements on vehicles or something like that, that we could replicate. But as it is right now, I'm just concerned it's too restrictive. We might end up, by that definition, not allowing ORVs in large part.
So by restrictive, Dave, what are you trying to allow that you're afraid that wouldn't be allowed? Just like the side-by-sides, are you okay with four-wheelers coming in, 3-wheelers?
I mean, I think I'm okay with 4-wheelers. Again, I'm looking for some other examples of what exactly we're trying to restrict here. Because the version we passed for reading last meeting didn't have that restriction, so I don't know what the right answer is there, but I'm saying it seems restrictive right now.
I think
Go ahead,
that,
Roger.
the restrictive portion came from Chief Gibson. I think that was his concerns were what led to the UTV designation.
Sure, yeah.
I think that's,
I believe South Haven has a prohibition on 4-wheelers, is that correct, out in the group? Yeah. So it's 3 and 4-wheelers. So it would be possible to ask our city attorney to take a look at their ordinance, perhaps, Joel, to see what language they utilized.
Sure, we can reach out.
So is there anything else that we wanted staff to look into regarding this? Staff, did you get that list? Okay.
And we record all the meetings.
Oh, you can always just go right back.
We really do. We go back Tuesday morning and make sure our notes line up with what we heard.
Just a real quick, like, nod of the head, audience, did I capture the things that you had brought up? Okay. So we do have a motion on the floor. Charles?
Can I say one thing? When it comes to the trestle bridge, there is no sidewalk on the trestle bridge.
Right, we discussed that at the study session, Charles, so,
Pedestrians to go.
okay. So we do have a motion with a support. I'm going to call for the vote then. So all in favor of tabling this vote to May 9th, that first meeting in May, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. No. Motion carries. Okay, moving on. We have public comment. This is agenda item number 9. So if there's any public comment for items that are not on tonight's agenda, you can come on up. I'll give everybody, oh, come on
I'll
up.
just quick say, I would appreciate, I forgot to mention it earlier, but ATVs being included in the definition, include that for consideration. There's additional safety measures in the ordinance requirements that specifically apply to ATVs because they don't have some of the other safety features that apply to UTVs. So, thank you, guys.
Thanks. Seeing no public comment, we'll go ahead and move down to agenda item number 10, which is written petitions and reports from special committees. Under 10A, we have a request from the Allegan Area Arts Council.
Okay, yep, I'll handle this. We did not see a representative from the Arts Council. Well, I misspeak. There is a representative here. Marcia, are you here to speak on this art camp request that Judy sent you? Thank you. I was about to just say, we recommend, so you're good. Thank you.
My name is Marcia Boehm. My address is Beulah, Michigan, but I'm the treasurer of the Arts Council. Okay. And in the past, you have graciously given us the use of the Griswold for a week, and we haven't done this in a while because of COVID and everything. And so we'd like to start that up again because it just gives the kids an opportunity to come and get involved with different art medias. I mean, even just music, not just coloring and drawing and pasting, but just gives them an idea, and they do it for just 1 week. And in order for us to keep our cost down, because we don't we don't charge anything. This isn't like a profit thing for the Arts Council. So in order to keep our costs down, we need to realize how much it would be to rent the Griswold, but the Griswold is just such a wonderful place. It's got the water, it's got the space. I mean, if something spills, we can clean it up. I mean, it just is a perfect place for an art camp. And so we just would appreciate it if you would consider that again for us. Are there any questions?
Council, did you have any questions?
Is art just referring to just drawing and that type of art? You're not going to use like the auditorium to do any type of
Oh,
theater
no,
type
no,
stuff?
no. But at the end of the week, we do have what's it called? An art show of all the projects kids have made through the week. And so we do have it, but we this year, I think we're going to explore different artist techniques like Van Gogh and what he would do and get them more into not just doing like a craft project. It's going to be, something that's what we'd like to do. And it's for 45 kids. And so that's.
Thank you. Were there any further questions, Council? Or staff, did you want to add anything?
No, we're,
Okay. Could I get a motion then, Council?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor of allowing the Arts Council to use Griswold Auditorium, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't know if that means we want to use the Griswold at no cost. Oh, that's what that.
Correct.
That's what that was, okay.
Yeah.
All right, okay, all right.
Next, we have agenda item number 11, which is reports from boards, commissions, and city offices. Under 11A, city boards, commissions, and area agencies, we have 11A.1, which is a report on the April Planning Commission meeting. Roger?
So the bulk of our time was spent reviewing the site plan that we're going to talk about, that you all read about, so I don't feel the need to go into great detail, except to say that Lori Costello from PCI, who is awesome, I want to go on the record, she just so helpful with this kind of thing, and
we had to sort of figure out what our zoning ordinances had to say, because we're looking at an accessory dwelling unit, and the zoning ordinance doesn't really address that, so she helped us kind of work through that and see that we were gonna look at it as a home dwelling unit. So basically, they're putting a garage with a living unit on the back of their property, which is a large piece, kind of back in the woods, shielded from neighbors, and it just looks great, and I think it helps us do some of that infill housing that we want to accomplish. So we unanimously, the planning commission unanimously voted to pass it up here to council. And then we also talked about the city master plan briefly, and talked about what we're going to do with that in the future.
Thanks, Roger. Next, we have 11A.2, which is Downtown Development Authority April meeting. I'll go ahead and report on that. At our previous meeting in March, we had discussed with staff a resolution to send to our legislatures to ask about the social district and keeping that going. It had a sunlight clause, but however, we got a report from staff that the state went ahead and did that on their own, so we didn't have to submit anything. So good news for all of our social district participants, that is not going to expire. We also then discussed our downtown events. We've already approved those via council, but some exciting news I thought was we are planning to get a large Ferris wheel on Brady Street for the Bridge Fest. So kind of going back to Bridge Fest of my youth with some rides. So thank you to staff for working on that. The comments that came through, we did talk about the refuse program again. And Joel, I believe, had touched base that we didn't get any bids for our enclosures. So he's working on that with independent contractors. And then we also discussed wayfinding signage again. That's something that comes up frequently at DDA, and we know, council, that that's one of our upcoming goals as well. The ORV ordinance also had come up there, so that got some traction in multiple meetings. Did I miss anything, staff? Okay. Moving down our agenda, we have 11B. Under 11B.1, we have a request to approve accounts payable and payroll. Teresa?
Okay, we have accounts payable in the amount of $434,261.07, and payroll in the amount of $79,398.30. The total disbursement was $513,659.37. I make a motion to approve, please.
It has been moved and supported. Council, was there any questions about accounts payable and payroll or any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Under 11B.2, we have a request to adopt Resolution 22.19, authorizing the City of Allegan to negotiate a certificate of deposits with Huntington Bank. Joel?
Sure. So Huntington Bank is the city's fiduciary entity that we work with as part of managing the budget and the finances for the City of Allegan. The finance director and the city manager needs to be identified by the city council, our legislative body, as the two entities that can negotiate certificate of deposits with the Huntington Bank. So this is just a requirement of Huntington Bank that, we actually are given the authority to do that work.
Thank you, Joel. Council, did you have any questions for staff regarding this request?
Is this something that we're doing regularly, or, is this something that we're doing regularly or planning on doing regularly?
On negotiating CDs,
Yeah.
It's something that we've always done.
Yeah.
We were with Chemical Bank. Huntington bought Chemical Bank.
So that's why.
So
we
this
have
is
to
a
do
process that we got to go through as they're doing some housekeeping. And we have CDs coming up for maturity.
Thank you. Were there any other questions? Seeing none, could I get a motion to adopt Resolution 22.19, please?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. If there's no discussion, council, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have 11F, which is city manager and city clerk. Under 11F.1, we have a request to approve the special use permit for 201 Thomas Street to construct an accessory dwelling unit, and this is what Roger just reported on. That planning commission had unanimously recommended to move up to council for approval. Joel?
All right, so as council is aware, all special use permits must be first reviewed and the plan is approved by the planning commission, and then they recommend to city council for action on the special use permit. Home occupations are classified as minor or major. Major home occupations are required to have a special use permit approval. Accessory dwelling units, as I mentioned in the staff report, and as what you saw in the planning commission report from Lori Costello, our zoning ordinance isn't inherently clear on how to address those. However, when we connect the dots, we find out that accessory dwelling units can be approved as home occupations, since the accessory dwelling unit of this size would be considered to have a major impact on the residential neighborhood. You're going from one dwelling unit to two dwelling units on that lot. It's required to be approved through the special use permit process. And that's how we got here today. So the planning commission has reviewed this, as Roger mentioned, and as you can see on the screen behind you, this is located at 201 Thomas Street, over in the Thomas Jackson neighborhood. The structure itself is going to be located pretty much in the center of the backyard. I believe the closest setback from a lot line is about 100 feet. So there's going to be really no real impact on surrounding neighborhoods, surrounding neighbors. They are not recommending a new driveway or proposing a new driveway. They're using the existing access point off Thomas. So the planning commission very quickly got to the point of recommending approval of this. And so city council, that is the planning commission's recommendation. The applicants are here. If you have any questions of the applicants, they're available to answer any questions. If not, you can also just recommend approval or make a motion to approve it.
Thank you, Joel. Did you guys want to, did you just want to say anything or explain?
Just explain.
Okay.
My name is Heather Stormsand. I live at 201 Thomas Street. Our initial plan was to build a garage for our boat that sits out in the yard. And my mother and Keith, there you go, had nowhere to live. Right now, it's really hard to find housing. And we really wanted to keep them close because they're not getting any younger. So what happens if we need to take care of them? So we would really like to do this for them and have a little space in a garage for us, so.
And it's 2.5 acres in the city there, and it's all woods all the way around, and it just is, and we still have our place in Beulah, so it's not like we're gonna
Live there.
be there all the time, but probably most of the winter.
Somebody did mention in our last meeting that the impact of another family living at our dwelling might impact the traffic flow, but we also have a new nature preserve going down the street, so I don't foresee them.
That our cars are gonna.
No.
Yeah.
So,
Or our visitors.
yeah.
Thank you so much. Council, did you have any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you, ladies.
Is everything at standard level there for processing waste and?
Yeah, the lift station, the sewer, and the water system would be fine with another occupant on the street there.
Okay.
Thanks, Doug. Any other questions for the applicant or staff? Okay, seeing none. Could I get a motion, please, to approve the special use permit for 201 Thomas Street.
So move.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Is there any discussion, council?
Only one item for planning to kind of go there. When you're talking infill housing, I do know some of the carriage houses around, of course, in our old district. Would be nice if they had the ability to make those into living. I know Jade Inn has it, but I think they're under a special district.
Yeah, they
PUD.
exist because of a bed and breakfast.
Well, their PUD also is part of it.
We haven't rezoned them to PUD.
I thought they were.
No, they were trying to go to
trying to
PUD
do that
when they wanted to do food delivery.
Oh, okay.
But
But
You're
yeah,
right.
I do enjoy that you guys are discussing how to address the use of these to allow for auxiliary living units.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy to see this.
And carriage houses, the planning commission specifically mentioned
Yeah.
carriage houses, so.
Carriage houses and garages,
Yeah.
the same thing.
And that's what, Roger and I have kind of both thought at planning, is this is exactly what we're trying to accomplish through our master plan and through the zoning that we'll be redoing, is to allow for more infill housing. So we thought this was a perfect example of the reason why. So if there's no further discussion, I will call the vote. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Congratulations and thank you so much. Next, we have 11F.2, which is a request to approve the proposed City of Allegan OPRA policy.
Okay, as
I
we
remember we
discussed,
discussed this last meeting.
yeah, as we discussed at the last meeting, see, I'm getting better at bringing something to a study session and then having action happen at the next meeting. Don't get used to it. I will slip and make mistakes again. So as we discussed at the last meeting, the city began issuing obsolete property rehabilitation act tax certificates in 2017. I believe right now we have approximately 9 or 6 of them right now in the city of Allegan. However, we don't have any policy that guides us on when to issue, how to issue. Of the 9 we have right now, 4, all of them are in place for 12 years. 4 of them have not begun work. 2 of them is because the property ownership has already changed. And 2 of them, they're just in a stalemate right now, it appears. So we discussed at council to come up with some policies on how to guide council in making decisions on who gets an OPRA, who doesn't, when they get it, how long, et cetera. So what staff has put together is really, a handful of bullet points that were in your report and the attached policy document and on the screen. So staff is starting out with that every property that qualifies for an OPRA will get a 6-year OPRA if they approach council. That means that they're in one of the 2 districts we have. The 2 districts we have is the downtown district and then 701 Marshall. You can have a single lot district. That's the Robinson Manor one, if you're trying to figure out what 701 Marshall is. We can create additional districts as well, but we'd have to create a district before we can issue a certificate. The property would have to be obsolete for it to qualify. So it has to be either vacant or blighted, and it needs to, improvements have to happen to it. If it qualifies, it gets like I just said, a 6-year, minimum 6-year OPRA. If the entirety of the building is going to be rehabilitated, or because of this project, the entire building minus the attics above the street level are fully utilized, then they would get an additional year. So that would be at 7 years. If the rehabilitation project will include green building technology, they would get another year. So they would be at 8 years. If they are going to include affordable housing per state and federal guidelines, they would get an additional year. So that would be at 9 years. And if they are going to, if the development's going to result in a mixed-use, commercial, residential use, they would get another year at 10. Staff is recommending that you cap OPRAs at 10. Staff is also recommending in the policy, it states that your project has to commence within 12 months. And then if you don't start your project within 12 months, the city holds the right to withdraw the OPRA certificate. It doesn't automatically go away, because something could be that hurdle, an obstacle for them starting. And they could come and say, I haven't started it because of the economy, or, inflation has jumped at, 37% or whatever. And so, but you hold the right to do it. So you'd be able to, judge those on a case-by-case scenario. So these were the handful of the different kinds of policies we discussed at the last meeting, I tried to put them into, a document that would be easily readable, both by developers, by staff, and by council. Are you comfortable with the direction we're going that you see there? Do you have any questions about any of those qualifiers?
Peter, you turned on your microphone.
Unnecessary questions on the qualifiers. Did we include the mill district when we did the downtown core? Thought we did.
I don't know that answer off the top of my head.
Just wondering, so.
Yeah.
I think they all look fine to me. I think most people are probably gonna be able to easily get 7 or 8 years without having to do much different than what they were doing.
Counselor, did you have any other questions for staff?
I communicated with Joel. I just really like this. I feel like it shores up this policy really well. It incentivizes, more investment but I like capping it at 10 years instead of the whole 12. 12 just seems like a really long time. So I think this is great.
Thanks, Roger. Anything further? Seeing no, go ahead, Joel.
Just real quick, if you move forward to approve this, just so you know what my next steps are, of the 4 that haven't started, but it's been 12 months, I will go ahead and I will email each of them and let them know that they have 12 months from tomorrow to get going on this work. I think it would be unfair to say, oh, we're gonna take it back since you didn't do anything, because they didn't realize. So you got 12 months to get going on your projects. And then you should know that you will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more in the downtown area that have reached out to me coming in for this. 2 that have already been approved, so 2 of those 5 have already been approved. The new owner has said, I'm ready to apply for the state funding, and part of that state funding is getting, a city contribution to your project, and OPRA qualifies. So this idea of OPRA's, this process isn't going away, There are people lining up to continue to make investments in their buildings.
That's great news to hear. Thanks for sharing that, Joel. If there's no further questions for staff, could I get a motion, please, to approve the proposed City of Allegan OPRA policy?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have 11F.3, which is a request to approve the amended City of Allegan Park Facility Reservation Request Form. Staff?
Yeah, I'll handle this and Joel can chime in. We'll tag team it again like we did at the study session. At your last meeting, we brought forth a proposed park usage or park facility usage reservation request form, lots of words. But at that meeting, the council gave us their feedback on changes that you guys wanted to see made. And so that form that was included in your packet reflects those changes that were discussed at that last meeting.
Yeah, so just through my counsel, and one reason I asked Parker to kick it off is because I needed time to get my bearings here. Again, our goal here is to make it a low entry. So it's $20 for 4 hours, and then 10 hours for each additional hour. And then the only other thing I would like you to consider is on the second page, under I thought it was on the second page, but when we talk about the riverfront park and what can be used there, so it's on the first page, item number 3. I want to be clear on what the change we made, because this wasn't on the thing you discussed at your last study session. Riverfront stage may only be used for public, family-friendly musical performances or health and wellness activities. So during the study session, we were talking about how cool it would be to have yoga on the riverfront. This is, hey, they pay $20, they can host yoga. And if they have a hard time coming up with $20 to reserve it, there's a few city employees that will chip in to make that possible. So we're expanding that riverfront stage from, music to music and health and wellness.
And I think I asked this before, Joel, when we say the riverfront stage, we're talking the stage and the grassy area, correct?
That's correct, Teresa. If you look, it doesn't really, when we're renting that space, it includes the stage, that grass area in front, and just that immediate kind of pedestrian plaza right there.
Okay.
Doesn't stretch any further than the turnaround drive, or any further behind the stage.
Correct, okay, all right.
Were there any other questions, council? This is a change to our park reservation policy. Is there anyone in the public that had anything to say? No? Okay, and we've already discussed that you could still petition council if you're looking for a waiver. So I know we've got one that we had tabled, Leah, so we'll make sure we get that back up. I believe we said that we would do that after we got the budget approved, so. Okay, seeing no further questions, could I get a motion to approve the amended City of Allegan Park Facility Reservation Request Form?
So moved.
Support?
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have 11F.4, which is a request to approve the placement of signage in city right-of-ways for the Allegan Beer Festival. I don't know how to say it. I think it's Allegan.
Look at us.
I know. I have a hard time with that.
A few of us lost the argument when coming up with the name. As well as to author or direct the city manager to sign all contracts with the Allegan County Fairgrounds as well, Mayor, at the end of the subject on the report. So for the staff report here,
Not on the agenda.
it's not on the agenda, I apologize. So 2019, the City of Allegan through Positively Allegan hosted the Allegan Beer Festival on their riverfront. We had 7 microbrewers. Four microbrewers from West Michigan. We had a country music band, Gunther and the Grizzly Boys.
Gunner and the Grizzly Boys.
Gunner and the Grizzly Boys.
Man, I'm trying to put myself back. I tried to forget that day.
Yeah, it was
if
a
any
great
of you
day.
recall, it was really great, but it was extremely overwhelming. Like Joel said, we had 4 breweries, we had a really great band, and we had like 3,000 plus people show up, and we sold out of beer in the first 45 minutes.
So I'm going to take over the presentation here.
Sorry.
You're fine, Parker.
Good time.
It was a great time, because you guys look at it negative. We were planning on 500 people. We told all the breweries 500 people. I think Parker's taken a play from Joel's playbook. I would say we had about 1,500 to 2,000 show up. But we did sell out of beer in 45 minutes, and staff was very stressed out running around. And I'm like, let's just go tell them, start bringing in more beer from their local breweries. Thankfully, Tantric was one of them. They were local. They were able to get some. Waypost, I think, was able to bring some in. So they were able, one couldn't. They said, we only made enough beer for today, 500 people. It was very successful. In 2020, COVID hit and kind of put a stop to all of our events. 2021, we were putting our foot back in the water. In 2021, everybody was asking us, are we doing a beer festival again? It's the #1 request that we have from people. So this year, last fall, Parker and I started talking, how do we pull this off and not have it be so stressful on staff, even though I think it was one of the best events that we pulled off. That led us to look at additional sites around the city. First, we talked about the sports complex. It is big, it is open. The problem with the sports complex is those fields are immaculate. And if we trample that with, 3,000 people and food trucks, it would ruin our soccer fields, and that's not a smart thing to do. We need to protect that investment. We then talked about the airport, not enough parking at the airport for something this big. And then we said, well, let's reach out to the Allegan County Fairgrounds and see if they'd be willing to donate their space to the community to make this happen. So the Allegan County Fairgrounds and, specifically, Sari Miller has been wonderful, being a champion for this. Her and her board agreed this one time They'll open it up for us. Specifically, they say multiple times, since the city works with us so well. I'm like, all right. Usually I feel like we could probably do a little more for you, but we'll take the compliments right now. They are allowing us to have access to their facilities free of charge. We have worked with Tantric Brewing and the local JCs to help organize this event. So it's really a three-headed, team right now. It's the city, it's JCs, and it's the city. And the county fairgrounds is, supplying the land. To use the county fairgrounds, we have to, sign a contract that will list them as additional insured. As I mentioned in the staff report, we've secured all the insurance from Phil Siegler of Bart's Rummery, our insurance agent. They're having 13 brewers this time,
Total of 15.
15 brewers
Yep.
this time, two bands,
2 bands and 6 barbecue vendors.
and 6 barbecue food trucks. This is going to be a very big event. My younger brother, him and his wife and friends go to these beer festivals all over West Michigan, have already reached out to me, said, I can't believe you guys are pulling this off, we're coming down. So people all over West Michigan are going to descend, that May 21st. They want to put up signs in the right-of-way. We told them, well, we got to bring that to city council. We have to have city council authorize, the placement of signs in the right-of-way. The difficulty we have right now, they don't know the exact location, but we would ask council to trust staff to work with them. They're probably going to the same locations that the Allegheny County Fair signs go in. And now that I'm going to say it, the antique show, last Sunday of each month, but I don't think they've ever asked permission to put signs in our right-of-way. I think that they just do that Saturday night and.
Because the city works so well with them, Joel.
Yeah, exactly. So what we're asking you tonight is to, approve the signs in the right-of-way, and I also think it's appropriate that council authorize me to sign that contract with the fairgrounds.
Thanks, Joel and Parker. Any questions?
A couple. Are we charging anything for these beer vendors? What's going on there? Because we're gonna have the additional cost of the additional insurance, I'm assuming.
So all the insurance is being covered by the JCs.
Okay.
And they're listing the city as additional insured and the county fairgrounds. We have our typical liability coverage that the city always has, that we're just gonna throw the fairgrounds under, and that cost is minimal for us. The way the project works for the beer festivals is the person has to, the entity that pulls that liquor license, so in this case, it's the JCs, has to carry an additional liquor liability insurance, which we also have to carry when we do our Positively Allegan, Downtown Allegan events in the past. They then, once they get the license from the state, they purchase the alcohol off the beer vendors, and then they charge, an entry fee to get into the festival. So that entry fee will cover 5 tickets at and you correct me if I misspeak, and then 5 tickets for the food truck as well. So it is a true kind of festival where you pay to get into it.
And I think to clear up the role that the city is playing, we're the coordinator, I guess, is a good term for the event. The JCs are the host, and Tantric Brewing Company, I guess, is a co-host, just with our experience in hosting different events downtown, and wanting to revive this thing that happened a couple of years ago. We wanted to kind of, like I said, coordinate with these two entities. It's their event, we're just kind of overseeing.
And with the county fairgrounds, they were clear, they wanted the city to
Yeah.
be actively involved in this.
Correct.
In the past, 5 years, I think, Parker and his team has shown a track record of success in hosting events and new events. So that kind of, hard work that he and his team has put in the past is paying dividends right now. So a lot of people, when they see the city's part of it, they just feel a little more comfortable.
And as far as the signage, I would wonder on the state trunk lines if that's really our right of way to control.
It's a good point. Note taken.
Yeah, if it's on the state trunk line, I don't think it is, but I think it's a good idea. That was just my concerns, was are we having a whole lot of additional costs for the city and we're not really bringing any income. I don't necessarily care if we don't bring the income, if we bring also people into the downtown core. And then chose the fairgrounds before the change in the social districts that allow for special use
Correct, yeah,
licenses?
yep, that was, I didn't gloss over, I completely forgot. That's another reason why we weren't thinking of downtown. One thing we are doing, when you talk about bringing people downtown and, costs, we're taking, in the city manager's budget, we have a community promotions line item. That community promotions line item, I think we have like 4,500 left in it for this year. We're taking $1,000 of that, and we are gonna be sponsoring the mugs that people drink out of there. So on one side, we'll have that logo, and on the other side, we'll have our downtown Allegan logo. So people, and these are mugs that they take home. So people all over West Michigan that are coming for this are gonna have a mug with our logo that says downtown Allegan. I thought that was, money well spent to, promote downtown, just have that in people's always, in the background of their houses.
I thought you were gonna say you were gonna sponsor the ACT to have a bus transport from the fairground over to downtown.
That would be a wise idea. That is something we could look into.
Council, were there any other questions? I just have a question. Who all has their tickets? Oh, I have my tickets. Okay. Okay, get your tickets.
Well, Delora, you kind of have an advantage. You can just
I
kind
could
of
just-
roll home.
Down the road. Or drive my car.
No.
Drive it down and walk back. Okay, moving on. So, if there's no further questions, we have 11, I'm sorry, it is 11F.41. Could I get a motion, please, to approve the placement of signage and also authorize the city manager to sign all contracts?
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. And last up, we've got agenda item number 13, which is communications from city manager, council, and mayor. Staff, anything tonight?
I do. A couple announcements. This past weekend, Allegan Community Players had their One Axe Festival at the Griswold. Talking with Ryan Berza, who is part of that organization. It was very well attended. Each night was a larger crowd than the night before. So that's good to hear that the Griswold is being utilized that way. And then this Saturday at the Griswold is the Ukraine benefit, 5 to 9 o'clock. You'll see Parker and I there, and Ryan will be there as well, I believe, for that whole event. It's $10 to get in. All entry fees and a proceed of the other sales that happen there will go to, the benefit, for Ukraine, for what they're going through right now. Encourage all council members, if you show up, feel free to say hi to us. That is all.
Thank you. Anything else, staff? No?
I-
Michaela?
Yeah, so we have an election next Tuesday on the 3rd. So I will be working Saturday here from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. And that's just basically for the purpose of getting people registered to vote. I can get them an absentee ballot, or just provide any other election information.
Thank you for the reminder. Thank you for all you're doing to get that election going. Doug or Zach, did you have anything? No? Okay. Mike, let's start with you. Anything from you tonight?
I was just curious if there's any update on the hotel developer. We heard about them early in my seating, and I haven't heard anything.
Sure, yeah, so, I actually have a report that I need to get you, that the developer sent to me for the month of April. I will forward that on tomorrow. We met with, representatives from two different hotel groups. Wyndham Hotels, was here probably 2 months ago, 3 months ago. And then just last week, I, hosted, Cobblestone Hotel Group. They're a regional hotel organization based out of Wisconsin, but they're really exploding. Their focus is communities with 10,000 population or under. That meeting occurred last Thursday with Nick Nykirk from Lakewood Construction and Brad Van Melly from Lakewood Construction. Very positive. Lots of excitement from the representative from Cobblestone. She was here in 2011 and worked with that council, trying to get a hotel developed. reached out to me in 2020, saying, hey, I was there, we really want to do a hotel in your town, how, accommodating, welcoming. I'm like, well, we're already under contract, to develop a vacant lot. She goes, okay. Well, if it goes south, let me know. She goes, I wanted to do something in 2010 or 11, but the council wasn't, ready to, work with us on it, but now we are. But your downtown's really big enough for about one hotel. You can't get two hotels downtown. So, when the relationship with CL went south, I reached out, to her through Nick Nykirk, and I said, hey, if you're so interested, you two should talk. Because, Lakewood Construction or 102, which represents 102 Brady LLC, had the, contract. Next Wednesday or Thursday, a new target market analysis. So a person that, researches, economies and so forth will be in town. It's the person that works with this hotel group. They will be in town meeting with myself or with Parker. If it's Wednesdays, it'll be with me and Parker. If it's after Wednesday, it'll be with Parker. I'm leaving for Kentucky Wednesday night. And then, next working on putting the capital stack together. Suburban Ends, who was part of that discussion at the beginning. Peter Borst, as you may have known, left Suburban Ends to go look on some ventures on his own. Suburban Ends is his family stuff, so his dad and his brother are still running that. He's still at the table. His new organization may want to be the operator of this hotel under a franchise agreement with Cobblestone. So, there's some, really positive steps and, seeing that project come to fruition. As with all big developments like this, unfortunately, things don't go as fast as Joel Dye wishes they would go.
Thanks for that question, Mike. That was a great update. Thank you, Joel. Peter, anything from you?
No, just that I was happy to see people out cleaning up some of the parks and things on Saturday. I wasn't able to get out with them because I had too much to clean up in my yard. But I was happy to see some people walking around and picking up trash and trying to make the parks cleaned up for the springtime here.
Teresa, anything from you?
No, I don't have anything, thank you.
Roger?
Nope.
Dave?
Nothing for me, thanks.
I just have a couple things. Joel mentioned the Ukraine event, but we also have a downtown showers, like the shopping event on Friday.
That's correct. Yeah, this coming Friday.
So it's kind of ladies' night, but just remarketed through our merchants downtown. So if you're in town, please stop down for that. And then I was just going to give council a quick update on our ordinance rewrite group. Mike, Peter, and I met with staff last week and got through Chapter 1. That went off to Nick for review. We made some minor adjustments and have a thought on some additions. And then we had started Chapter 2. We will be meeting weekly for that. Our plan is to meet on Tuesdays at noon. So our meeting is tomorrow, just a reminder, gentlemen, and we'll keep on plugging through. So that is in the works. And I do not have anything else. So it's 8:19. I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting.